right, so today we are going to be learning about lesson 3 of the inference strategy. And then in today's lesson, we are going to be focusing on the big picture questions, and we'll talk about what that is in a little bit. So today we're going to first review the definition of inference and infer, which the definition for inference is to make a conclusion or guess about something based on hints or facts that you have learned. And the two major types of questions, which are factual questions and think and seek questions. So as we mentioned, the two types of questions are factual questions and think and seek questions. As I said, you have already learned about these steps. Just kidding. You've already learned about the steps in the infer strategy. So think and seek questions are the big picture questions, which we'll be learning about today, predicting questions, which we'll learn another day, and clarifying questions. The expectations is for you to listen carefully. You're going to be taking notes during this lesson, and I want you to participate when I ask questions to the best you can. So I'm going to hand you guys this lesson or this note sheet, and I want you to fill it out while we are completing our lesson, just to have you, it's a fill in the blank, just to make sure that you guys are paying attention. So who can guess what the big picture refers to if you are reading a passage and being an active reader? If you are looking for the big picture, what are you looking for? Does anyone know?
The big ideas.
The big ideas, yep. When you look for the big picture, you're looking for the main message the author is giving the reader, or the main idea. Oh, it's because I skipped the slide. Whoops. Pretend like you didn't see that slide, guys. What do you think the big picture questions can be? Do you know any examples?
Questions that could make you think of what the big main idea of it is.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep, the big picture questions require you to figure out the main idea or the big message that is related to the passage. So the big picture questions require you to figure out the main idea or the message or the theme that is in the passage, and may ask for the purpose of the writer. So why did they write this? And it may ask for summary information, including what the setting is and what the tone of the passage is. Some examples of the big picture questions are: what is the main idea of this passage? What is the author's main purpose? What is the main idea of the first paragraph? What is the theme of this passage? What is the author's purpose in writing this passage? What is the setting of the story? What is the tone of this passage? And then what are these statements summarize? Which of these statements summarizes what this passage is about? You can usually recognize a big picture question if certain keywords are used in the question. These keywords may include main idea, which the definition is the big idea in a passage or in a paragraph or passage. The example is: this passage is about how people lived during the Renaissance. Another keyword is purpose. It's the author's reason for writing the passage. The example is: the author wants to convince the reader to exercise each day. The message, the author's communication in writing to the reader, what the author wants the reader to know or understand. The example for this is: the author wants you to understand that people should not say mean things about other people. And another key word is the theme. Another word for message, or what the author wants the reader to know. An example is the theme of this passage is that being safe is better than being sorry. Setting, the place in which the story is located. This takes place in the African jungle. And tone, the feeling of the passage, the emotions the author is expressing through the use of certain words like adjectives and adverbs. And the example for this is the passage is an angry passage. The author uses anger through the ways Peter acts by throwing things and yelling. The purpose of writing is to entertain the reader, to inform the reader, and to persuade the reader. The answers to big picture questions have the same characteristics as answers to factual questions, which we learned earlier in a different lesson, but we'll review. The answers need to be incomplete thoughts, and it needs to have a subject or has a verb. The answer is related to the information in the passage, so you can't have an answer that was not said anywhere in the passage because it just doesn't make sense. And then the answers need to answer the question, because that's how we answer good questions. That's how we answer questions correctly, is by answering the question. All right. So these are we're going to review the steps for the inference strategy. I is to interact with questions or passages. For the first step, you will read the questions and think about them. It's important to read the whole question in order to answer it correctly. The N is for note what you know. For the note step, you will decide what kind of question it is, and you will write a code letter next to the question. And the F is find the clues. For the find the clues, you will read the passage. As you read, be sure to keep the big picture question in mind. For E, it's explore any supporting details. In the explore step, you will look for other clues in the passage that will support your answer or to prove that your first answer you chose is wrong. And the last one, R, is to return to the questions. Once you think you have a good answer for a question, go back to the question and look at the answers for which you choose to see if they're correct. And now that we did a little bit of practice, we are going to, or now that we did our review and learned about what the big picture questions are, we are going to practice together. This is going to be a class practice, and then you guys will be expected to do an individual practice afterwards. So first, we are going to go through the questions that you will be looking for as we are reading this passage. So number 1, which of the following sentences best summarize this passage? A, summer heat can use well, actually, I won't read the answers. We're just going to read the questions. 2, what did Mrs. Blanco receive in the mail? 3, what is the setting in which this passage takes place? What is the mood in the first paragraph? And 5, this passage is mostly about. Now we are going to read the story. So I would like you to sit down quietly and pay attention, because you will be asked to answer these questions. Sacrifice. 92 degrees was the forecast for the next 5 days. Mrs. Blanco didn't know what to do. Her electricity bill for July was overdue. The woman at the power company said they would shut off the electricity to her home if she didn't pay her bill tomorrow. There was another letter on Mrs. Blanco's kitchen table. It looked like junk mail, but Mrs. Blanco opened it anyways. Earn hundreds of dollars working from your own home? That's how the letter started. Mrs. Blanco couldn't believe it, but she read some more. You make big money by stuffing envelopes. For a small startup fee, you can have a job. You can have the job of your dreams. Right, thought Mrs. Blanco. Small startup fee. The letter asked her to send $50 to get her letter stuffing kit. She took down the cookie jar from the top of the fridge. There was $11.95 in loose change. Roderick, she called in the direction of the living room, help me carry the TV down to the car. Roderick sat silently beside his mother in the car. He was not happy. Mrs. Blanco was taking his TV to the pawn shop. It's just for a few days, honey, she explained. We've got to pay our electricity bill so we can have our air conditioning. She had a worried look on her face. As soon as I get my first paycheck from this new job, I'll get the TV back. All right. So question 1 is, which of the following sentences best summarizes this passage? A, summer heat can cause high electricity bills. B, Mrs. Blanco takes a risk to pay her electricity bill. C, pawning your appliances can be risky. And D, stuffing envelopes is a great way to earn money. Does anyone know the answer to this question?
B.
B. Yes, B is the answer. Mrs. Blanco takes a risk to pay her electricity bill. And the evidence in the story is that we've got to pay our electricity bill. Number 2, what did Mrs. Blanco receive in the mail? A letter from her mother. B, the electricity bill. C, a letter about a job. And D, a new calendar.
It was C.
Yep, C, a letter about a job. And the evidence in the story was a job of your dreams. What is the setting in which this passage takes place? A, Mrs. Blanco's house in the winter. B, Mrs. Blanco's house in the summer. C, a motel room in the summer. Or D, Mrs. Blanco's son's house.
B.
Awesome. Yep, it was in. The evidence in the story is Mrs. Blanco's kitchen table, and we know it was summertime because they are talking about it being really hot and about the air conditioning. What is the mood in the first paragraph? A, excitement. B, sadness. C, worry. D, anger.
C.
C, yep, worry. Because Mrs. Blanco didn't know what to do about paying her electricity bill, and she didn't want her AC to be turned off. Oh, 5, this passage is mostly about A, person who needs money fast. B, a lazy person. C, a good way to beat the heat. And D, an unhappy son.
A.
That is correct. It is a person who needs money fast. And the evidence is a story that that she needs to pay her bills by tomorrow. Oh no, what's going on? Sorry, guys. Malfunction. Okay. Someone's yelling at me. All right. So we're gonna do one last little review to make sure that you guys understand the purpose of today's lesson. So what is the big picture question? Or what is a big picture question?
It talks about the main idea.
Yep. What are some types of big picture questions that you might see?
What is it talking about? Like the article or whatever the topic is?
Yep. And what will a good answer to a big picture question be like?
Explaining about it. the topic?
Yep. So now it's time to read a passage on your own and answer questions. This is for me to be able to see what you understand from today's lesson. And after, I will see how well everyone understands this concept. And then I'll decide if I need to teach more about the big picture questions or we'll be ready to move on to the next one. So your job is to read the passage, answer the questions, and then turn it into the work completed bin when you're done. And this is an individual activity, so you should not be working with others. And that is it. How do I stop now?